So I think this is probably just about the worst thing that I've ever read. It's just horrific. This came up in my timeline the other day, and I saw it. I was like, ugh. And when I see terrible things in my timeline, about 90% of the time now, I just scroll straight past it. I'm just like, you know what? I don't need to see that. But this kept coming up, and so I was like, okay, I will have a look into it. And man, just this is the sort of thing that should just never happen, right? So as you can see, a man with Down syndrome was starved to death in an NHS hospital. This happened a few years ago, 2021. So it was a man with Down syndrome called Adrian Poulton, who was admitted to Poole Hospital in September in 2021 with a broken hip after a fall at his care home. His hip was on the mend, but he was incorrectly listed as nil by mouth, as in he wasn't supposed to take any food in via the mouth, by doctors during his time in hospital and was fed nothing for 9 days. 9 days! And no one checked. And like, it's not that he couldn't talk either, right? He could talk. His father said not being medical, we just naturally thought he was having nutrition via feed. But as it turns out, they were starving him. His sister says we were just so worried. He was really poorly. He looked at me and Dad and said, Leslie, I don't want to die. He knew he was going to die. It was just awful. Like, just, how does that happen? Just how does it happen that they just starve someone to death after they come in? Like, why? Like, God only knows how he was incorrectly listed as nil by mouth. Like, this is, what a sad, sad ending to any life, man. What an absolutely sad ending. By the time my family realised he wasn't being fed, he was too unwell to recover. He died on September the 28th, 2021, 2 weeks after being admitted to the hospital. They found that the lack of nutrition contributed to his death. No kidding. In a statement to ITV News, Dr. Peter Wilson says, we offer our sincere condolences to his family and have apologised for the failings that resulted in his death. At the time, we undertook a serious incident investigation to identify any learning points. We have implemented a number of changes following this and have shared these with the family. What was it? Like, what was the issue? Why aren't you telling us what had happened here? It's a bit weird, isn't it? A bit weird that we don't get any further details on this. Genuinely, like this is the problem with putting your faith in institutions. Like, this is the problem, right? Who was fired over this? Who went to jail over this? Who was it that made the mistake that starved a man to death? Who did that? How does this person, whoever is responsible for this, and all of the other nurses who decided, I'm not gonna go and check that. Like, no, this seems fine. Yeah, he's getting a bit thin, but it's been 4 days with nil by mouth, and he looks pretty raggedy. Should I double check that, or is that just not my job? Right? This is the problem with putting trust in government-run institutions. Accountability is clearly lacking, and also the people involved. Is it my job? Like, is it something they're bothered with? Does the institution actually really change? No, the institution is persistent. And so it goes on and nobody's punished. Nobody is disciplined. What is actually learned? I mean, do I believe that they're like, oh yeah, well, we've made a series of changes and this won't happen again? Well, yeah, okay, you would say that, obviously, but can we be sure of that? Is that genuinely something we can put our faith in? And the thing is, it's not like the NHS hasn't got a massive amount of problems at the moment. So, of course, at the moment, more than 700 nurses are currently caught up in a potential scandal, which is putting NHS patients at risk. And, of course, what it is scams from Nigeria. 700 healthcare workers use proxies to pass the test in Nigeria, enable them to work in the UK. So basically, you can't trust the qualifications of people from the third world. Like, they aren't actually, like, a university here is not the same as a university there, actually. Standards are different. Attitudes towards cheating are different. And the people these universities produce, these institutions produce, well, these people have different standards and often, frankly, are just not going to be qualified, are they? And you get some just crazy things like, let's bring in foreign doctors. And what happens if they can't even speak English? So they make significant errors, in fact. And this doctor, in particular, Dr. Monica Matko was trained in Hungary, working at the university hospitals of Derby and Burton, when concerns were first raised about her communication skills. She was suspended for the 6th time because she can't speak English. She's been here for years. How is she not able to speak English yet? I mean, she apparently graduated in 2003 and made significant errors while documenting care for a diabetes patient, and then everyone's like, all right, she doesn't even speak English. This is a problem, isn't it? But again, it's what happens when you don't train your own. When you just are like, well, we can just import, because a doctor is a category. And every instance of doctor in that category is identical to any other instance of doctor. And therefore, we can just be like, right, okay, let's get X amount of doctors from this country, and this country, and this country. And then we have, quote unquote, more doctors. Even though they might not actually be at the standard that we expect in this country. Same with the nurses. Oh, we just need nurses. Right, the category of nurse in which every person who falls into it is identical is the way that they think. But actually, no. Actually, there is a qualitative difference between doctors from here and doctors from there. And that's how this works. Anyway, it goes to all levels, right? All levels. The idea that we can just bring them in. And if their English isn't good enough, well, I guess we just have to live with it, don't we? For some reason, we can't force them to learn English. This is another awful one, right? This happened a couple of years ago, where a dementia patient fell down some stairs, became trapped under her stair lift, and the emergency services couldn't understand what the problem was because it was a Romanian and an Indian who themselves had a very poor grasp on English, so they couldn't understand what the problem was. And the woman died. I mean, she was 91, she had dementia. Not the worst case you can imagine, but that's still terrible, and a case that should never have happened. Like, the paramedics should at least have been able to communicate what the problem was to emergency services. Anyway, the whole point that I'm making here is that the health system has been really run down recently for many different reasons, but one of them is massive over-reliance on foreigners. Right, that's very clearly the case. And so now we've got an NHS that just isn't fit for purpose. I mean, you've got here 60,000 cancer patients in England not getting the necessary radiotherapy. Oh, that's great. And the thing is, cancer treatment in England was never the greatest anyway. Right? Other countries do cancer treatment way better than we do. And we're getting worse at it. Apparently, an analysis of the latest NHS data in England shows only 35% actually receive what they actually need. It's like, oh, great. That's brilliant. Like, the NHS is just falling apart. And of course, this is 2 years old now, but even then, I can't imagine this situation has improved terribly well. Figures show large rise in people dying on the NHS while on waiting lists. Of course they do. Of course they do. Because we keep handing out access to the NHS to anyone and everyone as if it's an infinite resource. We've given 1 million NHS free passes to asylum seekers so they can just come in and go and use our services. Don't worry. I mean, maybe they're trying to finish them off or something. Like, I don't know what the plan is. What, are they going to be euthanized? Because they voted for that in Parliament the other day. Like, what's the plan here? We're just an international charity, an international health service. Well, bad luck. Hope you don't get the Romanian or Hungarian doctor. Hope you don't get the Nigerian nurses, bros, because, you might regret that at the end of it. But as you can see, the NHS is under a huge amount of pressure, right? A huge amount of pressure, and mistakes are being made, is what's happening. As the doctors say, the NHS is struggling to meet demand in England as new data shows the waiting list is increasing for the second month in a row. There are 7.4 million planned procedures waiting to be carried out in July, up 34,000 on the previous month, and the highest level since March. And remember, this is in the wake of COVID as well, where the thing spiked also. So this is just an unfit for purpose service at this point. The Royal College of Surgeons, again, don't take my word for this, right? I'm just a guy with a webcam, right? Don't take my word for this. I'm going on BBC reporting and what the Royal College of Surgeons has said. The system was coming under severe strain and called for more money for new operating theatres in the autumn budget. Okay, that's great, but do you have the doctors to man them, or are we going to have to hire Nigerians? Are we going to have to hire people from Hungary? Are we going to have to hire people who don't speak English and their qualifications are dubious? Because I think that might be the only way to staff them. And the problem is that this is a circular issue. We're bringing in 1 million migrants a year and however many asylum seekers. Oh, some of them need surgeries. Some of them need treatments. Some of them need to use the NHS. Well, I mean, we'll pay for that. But that means a manpower shortage. Well, I guess we're going to have to bring in more doctors and surgeons, aren't we? We're going to have to bring in more nurses. We're going to have to... You can see how this is just snowballing out of control. And all they can do is like, well, we're going to need more money. Because they are going to need more money, obviously. If you keep increasing the population that has access to the NHS, you're going to have to pay for that. So enjoy your tax rises when Rachel Reeves's budget comes along, which we are going to get, by the way. Crumbling hospital buildings are leading surgeons to have to compete for space, directly contributing to delays and leaving patients waiting for the care that they need. Yeah, that sounds pretty bad. And I'm sure it's not just the crumbling buildings, let's just be fair. And so you've got, obviously, patients... Again, this is the Royal College of Nursing saying this, right? And this was from the beginning of this year, but how much better have things got? Patients dying in corridors as nurses prevented from delivering CPR, new report reveals. A survey of nursing staff shows the scale of the corridor care crisis in hospitals, with almost 7 in 10 saying they're delivering care in overcrowded or unsuitable places like corridors, converted cupboards, or even car parks on a daily basis. It is not meant to be an international health service. And even if you say, right, okay, we're going to restrict it, we shouldn't be bringing in 1 million people a year, because at the end of the day, a portion of those are going to need to use it either way. And so we're just overburdening the system with the sheer number of people we bring to this country. And this is one aspect of that. And you can look at any other aspect you want. Have you driven lately? Have you used the trains lately? Have you tried getting renting a house or renting a flat or buying a house lately? Have you looked at the prices recently? It is insane to live in this country. And yet, here we are, importing more and more and more. Anyway, there is one answer as far as the government's concerned. You know what we need? More than a black hole's worth of money can go into the NHS. Remember, £22 billion was the black hole in the budget. Well, we've got nearly a black hole and a half being added to the budget of the NHS now because there's no end in sight. It is literally a bottomless pit into which we are going to keep pouring money and be like, wow, why is us pouring all of our money into this bottomless pit, not filling it up? It's because this is just something that can't be fixed, right? This is just something that can't be fixed. We have opened the doors to the world and we have said, yeah, we have a free at point of service, health service. And so they're like, great, I'm going to use that and you're going to pay for it. And unsurprisingly, the thing is falling apart because of it. Absolutely falling apart. I mean, this just didn't happen before 1997, this sort of thing. Like 7 in 10 nurses weren't like delivering care in the car park, in converted cupboards or corridors. Like, doctors weren't just like, yeah, by the way, people are going to keep dying on those waiting lists. And, there's not really a lot we can do about it. This is just a bit of a problem. This just wasn't the case. And the thing is, you can go back and look at the statistics as well. Like, it's just so clear that the more people come into the country, the worse our services become. And the NHS is probably the primary victim of mass immigration. If you want to look at institutions that are suffering because of immigration, the NHS is probably service number 1 that needs it to stop. And yet the propaganda, the brainwashing is all, no, immigrants, we need immigrants for the NHS. No, immigrants are killing the NHS. This is a venerable British institution that is not going to survive mass immigration.